Hey, things we take for granted right now. Things that you should not take for granted. Things that you should think ahead about, and maybe if you need to, take some action now while you can. Everybody knows about the upcoming shortages, right? I mean, everyone's talking about distribution chain disruptions, employer disruptions, dun, 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 dun. And so we know there's shortages of stuff coming. And so if you, and I think most of you do, because we're Americans, we're consumers, man. Think that through, and it's like, okay, I need to get this stuff while the stuff is still available. We're starting to see reports. Most of them are fear porn reports, which I hate, but they're like, the shelves are getting empty, and here's 5 things, and whatever. You know shortages are coming. Stock it to the rafters, right? We get that. That's too easy. Hey, I thought I had coffee in here. Oh, I'm going to have to do this one dry. Nothing. Freedom of movement. Right now, within the confines of the United States of America, you have freedom of movement. Most of us in the world have lost freedom of international movement to a large degree. Right? There are a lot of restrictions, which I may not mention, to get into many countries that are even open. And then if you get there, things you have to do while you're there and so on. So your international freedom of movement is already greatly restricted. But so far in the United States, your freedom of movement is still there. My wife, as I speak, is driving home from Florida, not anticipating any problems. That could end like that. Like that. If you are the wrong type of person, if you have not taken the certain steps that they want you to take, if you do not have documentation of a certain kind, your papers, your traveling papers, it's a play out of the communist, it's a chapter out of the communist playbook. Internal population controls. Of course we understand external controls, except for this current administration who just opens our southern border and says, come on in. And I heard Dan Bongino, I guess. I don't know. I just heard him on the radio. Evidently he's famous. I don't listen to talk radio. But I heard him yesterday, and he made a really good point. How can these people on the one hand be calling for isolation and stuff and say, this is all very scary, and on the other hand say we can let anybody in unchecked on the southern border, we don't care? See, it doesn't make sense, right? Because when their lips are moving, they're lying. But most people understand the concept of external controls. We can't just let anybody come in here that wants to. That's also been the way of things throughout humanity. That's why they used to have people at the gates of the cities checking who's coming and going, right? So, but internal controls, you can't go from place to place, town to town, on this road without showing your papers. And if you don't have the right papers and you get caught on the road, what happens? Maybe really bad things, right? Those are coming. And so if you want to do traveling, my wife's case, she went to Florida to see her mom. Now's the time to get it done. That's over here. But it's communism, controlling internal movement of their people. It's also feudalism. And I believe what we're going to is a neo-feudal state. Again, the haves and the have-nots, the people who are in total, complete control, who tell everybody else what to do on pain of death. They would do that. Under the old king system feudalism in Europe, the serfs, the villagers, belonged to whatever level of authority was placed there, whether it was the king overall or the baron that he gave, Missouri to, the baron of Missouri. Everyone in Missouri belongs to that baron, and he can subdivide it down. You can't leave your little town or village or state or barony or whatever without permission from the leader. Your property. Oh yeah, that's common. See, that's how they consolidate. I'm sorry, I'm itching my ankles. I got tore up by chiggers. First time this summer. Oh, look at the squirrel. Oh, look at the chigger. You're property of the state, and you belong to them, and they don't hesitate to control you. So if you want to figure out places you need to go, things you need to do, go ahead and do that. If what I said in today's video comes to bear, and you are in possession of an unregistered firearm that by law at this point has to be registered, you can't take it to a range. You're not going to be able to take that thing to a range and shoot it. And so if you need to zero, God forbid, that's like you should do that within 72 hours of bringing it home is zero it. If you need to zero your weapon, go do that. If you need to take a class on carbine 101 or, defensive handgun 101 or something like that, you better go take it while you still can, because you're not going to be able to bring that thing out into the light without the proper paperwork. Just like you're not going to be able to go out into the light without the proper paperwork. See, it's all about control. They call it all these other things, but it's control. So I was thinking about shutting down the interstates. That's internal controls. I was thinking about you being able to freely use your firearm. Another thing related to this all, because guys, girls, this is coming out of the communist playbook. I mean, it's just like if you studied communism and how they implement communism in a formerly non-communist country back when they did that, World War II ending time frame for the most part. And I guess before a little bit. Anyway, another thing that the communist playbook has is snitches. Oh, yes, snitches everywhere. Because, see, when we reduce what everyone has access to, only the cool people get to go to the store. But I can give you a pass to go to the store this weekend, and then you can buy all those pretty Bibles of Babylon, right? Only certain people get allocated gasoline, but I can get you some gasoline. If you work with me, I can work with you. You make my life easier, I make your life easier. I want to know who's shooting firearms in your area. Yeah, where are you hearing gunshots? See, now you're not on a public range. You're out on some land that you can shoot on, and people are being incentivized to snitch on you. Oh, yeah, you don't think they will? They gonna snitch on you. So OPSEC becomes huge. Who you talk to and who you trust. Oh yeah. We talk about here, and so do all the other channels about, and I kind of hit it harder. What is today a normal, suburban dad who has, an AR-15 that he's shot twice. And he goes golfing and, go team and, whatever. He wears his dad shorts on the weekend. He's making good money, life, right? Life's good, raising his kids. When he's out of food for 3 days and his 5, 6, 7-year-old daughter looks up at him and says, "Daddy, I'm hungry," and he can see her withering away before his eyes, yeah, he's going to go try and solve that problem however he can. And the way I've brought up in the past is he's going to take that AR-15 that he has, he's going to go become part of the problem. Yeah, maybe. Could not come home at all. Could kill somebody else who doesn't need killing, right? I mean, he's part of the problem. But guess what else he could do? Now he can go snitch. He can go tell on somebody else and get an extra 5 ration cards. Thank you for your service to the fatherland. Here you go. We'll be in touch. Oh, yeah. There's a reason. Again, historical. Look at history. Look at how it's always gone. When there is an occupying army, an occupying government, there's always an underground. I've told you before, read Total Resistance by Von Dock. There's always an underground or resistance that's going on. At some level or another, there's always collaborators with the enemy. Right? The enemy comes in, they put everything, they're in charge of the people. Some people are resisting. The enemy goes out and hires spies and gets people to work for them and collaborate with them. And there's a reason that collaborators get shot. Oh, yeah, I don't care if you turned in that person just so your family could eat. I don't care if you told the cops where this deal was going down just so that, hey, I know you had no choice. Your wife was in the gulag and they were going to, kill her if you didn't tell on people. It doesn't matter. Snitches, they don't get stitches. they get worse, right? So that's history. That's history. And then there's always a reckoning. See, this is the thing. Fence sitters, they get knocked off. You got to pick a side of the fence. Unfortunately, none of us have a crystal ball. That's why everyone tries to ride the fence, right? You try to ride the fence, but eventually you're going to be forced onto one side or another. Or if you work for both sides hate you, right? It doesn't matter that you also work for this side. If you work for that side, this side still hates you, right? So you got to pick a side, but here's the deal. Somebody's going to win, right? And if you're on the losing side, Taliban, they're taking over Afghanistan now. There's a big surprise. I told my mom when we went into Afghanistan in 2001, we're going to leave Afghanistan. It's going to look just like it did before we left. We're not going to change a thing. Well, the Taliban's taken over. Some poor guy who was like an interpreter part-time for the U.S. Army because, hey, he's trying to make a buck and all he's doing is speaking the language. They chopped his head off. Oh, yeah. The chickens come home to roost eventually. So, you got to pick the right side. As for me and my house, we shall serve the Lord. That's the side I'm picking. But start thinking about things. Things are not going to be as they are. And so if you need to take advantage of some stuff now, do it. All right. I'll see you out there.